So, the big ones. I mean, there's only really one big one that was late to go. But 6 laps into the race, we had a wreck between John Hunter Nemechek, Brad Keselowski, Harrison Burton, Austin Dillon, Carson Hocevar, Jimmy Johnson, and Kaz Gralla.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was it. So coming out of 4, getting to the tri-oval, seemed like the 42 of John Hunter Nemechek's kind of indecisive on where he's trying to run. Brad's getting hit from behind by the 1 car. Now the 1 car gets off of Brad, but Brad continues. He's not just going to slam on brakes. Gets momentum and hits the 42, and the 42 goes spinning, collects Harrison Burton and starts the lap 6 wreck. I've seen a lot of people say it's Brad's fault. I've seen a lot of people say it's kind of a racing incident. I've seen people say it's John Hunter's fault. Some people say it was Ross's fault. Where do you? Obviously, you're an RFK guy, so you're probably not going to say it's Brad's fault. How do you see that situation?
Well, I've said it on this podcast before, and it's whenever you hit anybody from behind, you share the blame. It's your prerogative unless you're getting pushed to either stay in it or get out of it. So looking at it as objectively as I can, of course, Brad's got a role that he played in this. However, I do think that it's not, if I had to pick one guy, the main issue was not Brad's push. I would say the main issue was John Hunter's indecisiveness. So for that for a half a lap before this wreck happens, they're entering into 3, and he's in the middle, and then he goes to the top, and then he's back to the middle, and then he's into the top, going through 3 and 4. Brad doesn't know where he's going to be, and then he moves up, coming off of 4, and tries to come back down, and then moves back up again. And how are you supposed to hit somebody square on the bumper if they're not holding the line? That's, restrictor plate racing or speedway racing 101. Like, you can't get a bump draft if you're not straight. Now, of course, like I said, some of that's on Brad. He shouldn't have hit him, but you also expect you're in the NASCAR Cup Series. Hold the fucking line. If you can't do it, don't be here. Don't be racing at the front anyway until you can figure out your car. If your car's having handling troubles, get out of the pack. If that's what it was. If it's you, get better. Because when we go to Atlanta this weekend, if John Hunter's doing the same thing, he's probably going to get wrecked again because you can't hold the line. Harrison Burton, same thing happened to him in his first race in this car. It happens. But it's definitely not Brad's fault 100%. I would say if it's anything, if I had to put numbers on it, I'd say it's 75% on John Hunter. I would say it's probably 10% Brad.
Only 10%.
10-15% Brad, and the rest Ross, because Ross did give him a shot, and
but I don't think I really don't see how it's Ross's fault.
No, I mean it's not Ross's
Ross is
fault.
doing what he's supposed to. He gave Brad a push,
and Brad's doing what he's supposed to be
doing.
It
like he was all over him.
Sure. I'm not saying he shoved him through him, of course, but he did get a push from Ross, which did propel him into,
I guess,
the 42. Now, like I said, it's not Ross's job not to push there because the guy 3 cars ahead might wreck. It's not. So I'm not saying it's Ross's fault, but if Ross doesn't give Brad that shove, he doesn't have the run to then push John Hunter. All in all, John Hunter's got to be able to control his car, and all in all, John Hunter's got to put his car in the right spot to accept a push. And being all the way up at the top, not running the groove that everybody else is running. Brad didn't put his car up that high. Brad's got to run, and Brad's not going to lift. That's the way Brad races these races.
He lifted. You saw the
he did
by
the time he got into him. Yeah, because he realized at that point. But you're not going to lift. You're not going to lift until you have to, and you hopefully that the 42 can gather it up or not put him in a bad position, which he ended up wrecking because he couldn't hold the line and couldn't accept the push. But people say Brad's a bad pusher. He's never wrecked any of the good guys. He wrecked Ricky Stenhouse, sure, that's coming down fucking 2 laps to go in the 500. It's going to happen.
It's like 8.
Sure, same thing that happened at lap 8. Got him gathered up this year. But wrecks happen with 8 to go, sure. But if you look at all the guys that Brad has wrecked pushing, you got Harrison Burton was in his first Cup race ever in a new car. The 42 this year, and then, it's never Joey.
Who did he wreck last year at Talladega? Because it was his
in
fault.
the fall race?
Mm-hmm. I forgot who it was.
Was it Ross?
I don't know, but he wrecked somebody last year in Talladega, kind of around the same area.
He's aggressive, sure, and he puts himself out there to take the blame of these wrecks. But, Ricky did the same thing when he was driving the 17 car, and it worked for him. He won a bunch of races doing it.
Something about them Roush cars, boy, you just got to watch out for
Yeah,
them.
you do. But they also are the fastest cars out there quite a bit. Now, they weren't this weekend, but, Brad's really good at this type of racing. And like I said, it's very rare that he's sending Denny Hamlin through the grass or he's never wrecked his teammate, Chris Buescher, because he can accept the push and he's always holding the line. There's certain guys out there that Brad knows he can push. And, you're going to give the young guys the benefit of the doubt because if you don't work with them, your line's going backwards. So you have to. You have to work with them. And that's why I blame it on the 42 because, like I said, if the 11 car was in front of Brad, there wouldn't have been a wreck.
Yeah. I kind of look at this wreck the same way I look at the wreck that with 8 to go later on. It's kind of just the same situation. Guy getting a push. Guy getting a little squirrely, trying to lift off the gas, and it's just too late. I think both wrecks are kind of similar. I think it's I wouldn't say it's only 10% Brad. Brad's been a common denominator in all these, not all of them, but a lot of these wrecks on these super speedways with this next gen car. So try the other one because those are mainly Tories. Yeah. You like Mountain Dew Code Red? I think it tastes a lot like. It's not like exactly to it. Sorry. Please sponsors, yes. That'd be nice. But yeah, I think the wrecks are just kind of racing situations. I'd put 60% on John Hunter. He got to be able to hold a line there, figure out what he's doing with his race car. He's a rookie, not a rookie, but he's first
Might as well be.
He's first time he's been in the next gen car. I think in a while. I don't remember. I don't even know if he's ever been in the next gen car. He probably has, but
I think he raced. Did he race a third car for somebody
front row
last year?
I don't know. Anyways, he hadn't had a lot of experience with his next gen cars. I'm trying to say, and if you're trying to fill your car out, don't jump to the top lane with a run coming. He had plenty.
This
of
is
time
why
to
they
jump
need
up there.
fucking practice.
Yeah, big time. But I give, I say 60 on John Hunter.
Yeah.
I say 30 on Brad, and then 10% is just racing, just how kind of the cookie crumbles.
That's just short track race.
At Daytona. So, Brad is a common denominator, and you can't ignore that situation. You can't ignore he's a one of the main parts of a lot of these super speedway crashes. Not saying he's doing anything wrong, but he's usually one of the guys that is involved in these type of wrecks. But
Go ahead.
But I just think it's it sucks because it happened so early in the race, and I thought they were going to train for a while because usually when you have a early wreck like that, it kind of scares everybody. Like, all right, guys, we got to get to the end of the race here. We can't be doing all this shit. But luckily they didn't. Now they were saving fuel, going 170 miles an hour, but they weren't training, I guess. But it just sucks that it was so early in the race. And but like I said, you got a point with the guys that have wrecked off the bumper, Brad, the past couple of years. It's been young guys, inexperienced guys in the Cup Series, like Harrison Burton, like John Hunter, Nemechek. So you got a good point there.
I think to be as good as Brad is, and maybe the stats don't show how good he is, but Denny Hamlin said he's one of the best of them out there at super speedway racing. And he's never won the 500. I don't know if he's ever won the night race.
Who?
Brad.
He's won it once.
Okay, I know he's got a couple wins at Dega, but
A couple.
yeah,
Got like 7,
yeah, a couple.
6 or 7.
But I didn't remember if he had ever won the night race at Daytona. But he's got a ton of super speedway wins. He's always in contention to win, and
Should have won Atlanta last year in the spring.
should have won, but didn't make an aggressive move that he probably should have.
Should have probably
And
could have
that's
won
why-
Atlanta when we were there in July if it doesn't rain.
If William Byron's Golden Horseshoe ain't there, but it's and that's my point is like you bring up Atlanta last year. If Brad was over aggressive, he would have made the over aggressive move to win the race.
on Joey.
Yeah, on Joey. I don't think it's Brad being over aggressive. I think he's just overestimating the talent of the guys in front of him. If he was just being over aggressive, why didn't he make that block at Atlanta last year? So it doesn't make any sense to me why people are blaming Brad for this one. I mean, I do get the fact that you got a guy in front of you got to be a little bit more cognizant of that, but it's more on John Hunter than it is on Brad, and it's like I said, if it's Denny Hamlin or somebody else in that situation, Brad's not causing a wreck there. There isn't a wreck that happens there if there's an experienced driver in front of Brad. So, what do you you kind of spoke on it a little bit. What did you think about the wreck with 8 to go?
Yeah, the wreck with 8 to go was the William Byron clipping Brad Keselowski, turning him up into Joey Logano and up to the rest of the field.
That does taste like Code Red.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And collected, like I said, mostly all the Fords other than Austin Cindric, and maybe I think Noah Gragson or somebody, but and David Reagan. But those guys were never a factor late, except for Austin Cindric. This wreck, like I said, it's kind of like the first one. And now it's 8 to go. Like you're trying to push all you can. Brad makes a good move, trying to get under Ross.
He's gonna make the pass.
He's going to make the pass on Ross. And the 24's got a good run coming from the middle line with the 48. And they just got off center a little bit. 24 gets loose. 48 tries to back out. You can see the pipes, the flames come up under the pipes of the 48. Too late. Gets 24 loose, turns him up into the 6, up into the 22. And then it's melee from there. The one just barely squeaks out. He almost got turned from the 6, but he narrowly avoids it. That's the big one. Takes out about 15 cars, I think. Takes out the 6, the 12, the 22, the 11.
All the guys
19,
that were going to compete for winning the race.
The 19. A lot of big hitters.
17.
17. Although he really wasn't a factor all day.
No, he wasn't, but he'd have been up there at the end.
He maybe. But
especially if he's not in that wreck. There's only 5 cars left that were competitive.
This one is blame. I'm gonna say 50% near. It's the end of the race. 50%. The other half is Alex Bowman and William Byron. Bowman for giving him a push, seeing him be sideways. Maybe should have got off a little bit earlier off him, but like I said, it's 8 to go. And then William Byron for not being able to handle a push late from his teammate. I give them 25% each on their end. So 50%, it's the 8 laps to go on the 500, and then 50% is on the 200 boys.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I agree
in the moment
on the numbers, and I still think that it's dumb. And the reason I think it was just a bad decision by those two guys is, you're trying to fill a hole that's going to be closing, and it's very difficult. We see it every year. Every year there's a wreck going into 3. Every year there's a wreck right there on that part of the racetrack. For whatever reason, you're loading up to enter into 3. Cars get real light right there. Somebody's going to get turned. It's very difficult right there. It's kind of like going through the tri-oval. Kind of not wanting to push somebody right there because you're going to cause a wreck. We saw it with who was it that got turned right there last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was, caused that big wreck in the Xfinity Series when Myatt Snyder fucking died. It happens. It doesn't matter, but it happens there quite a bit. There's always a wreck going into 3 right there. So I think it was kind of dumb for Bowman to be pushing that hard right then, especially because they're really wasn't anywhere for them to go, if I'm
Well,
remembering.
they had a hole.
They
'cause
had a-
Brad had moved
Sure they
down,
did.
and
Sure
that's
they
what
did.
allowed them to keep going.
Yeah, so
I'm
Brad's
swinging on my chair. Right?
Brad's under the one at that point, and
He's
they're
getting ready to
and
get
they're
under the one. Yeah.
yeah, and they're kind of cut in the middle, trying to, and they'll
Yeah,
they'll
in the
fill
middle.
the hole, which will be occupied by
By
the
Ross.
by
Yeah,
the one.
Ross.
So he's gonna push him into the back of Ross.
Yeah, but Bowman doesn't know that. He just pushed 24. They're trying to get out in front.
Fair. That's why I was saying, you can't really blame it on the third guy because he doesn't know what's going on up there.
Now, could that be why the 24, maybe he checks up, and that's why 48, as he continues to push, he gets
Yeah, I
squirrely?
don't know.
He sees the 6 going underneath the 1?
I think he checked up just because Bowman had his fucking rear end jacked up off the ground, and he's trying to get out of it so he doesn't get spun out. But it's just it's too late at that point. You're squirrely. You're done. There's not any driving in the world that can save you once your ass is sliding all over the spot going into 3.
Your ass is grass.
Yeah, you're screwed. And it's just unfortunate that, and it's just, it pisses me off because it happens every year, and it's the reason that I fucking hate super speedway racing. At least super speedway racing coming down to the checkers, because it's always going to end up in a wreck because you there's just no other way to do it. There's no other way to pass. There's no other way to
The Atlanta race last year at the end
To
didn't
put
wreck.
yourself-
It went a whole last 40
Sure.
laps under green.
Sure, it doesn't. And that's the exception that makes the rule. But you had a bunch of guys at the front that were experienced at that type of racing that were not driving with their fucking, heads on the floorboard.
Shout out Ryan Newman.
And, it's the Daytona 500 is always going to end this way. From now until the end of time, it will end this way because, you're going for it's the biggest prize in
And
NASCAR.
all the cars are so close.
Yeah, and
like you see all these.
You're not
these-
going to get spread out with the stages. And like you said, the cars are super close, and it's such a big race. It was the biggest purse in motorsports history.
$28 million.
$28 million for the winner of this race. So
I'll be driving like a maniac too, or $28 million.
exactly. So you're going to go for it, and there's no way to not.
Yeah.
So like you almost can't blame the drivers. You have to blame NASCAR for putting them in this box.
But I'm not mad at NASCAR.
I'm
for
not
giving
either
them the
because-
purse for good. Hey,
Sure, but
win
you're
the biggest race of the
but-
year. $28 million for you, baby.
But you're putting them in this box as far as it's going to come down to 8 laps to go, and somebody's going to drive like an asshole because they have to, because they need to go win that $28 million. On one hand, I'm mad at NASCAR for putting them in that box because of the way that drafting has to work now. But then on the other hand, it makes for great racing, and if that wreck happens,
It's entertaining. Much as the drivers don't like it, it's entertaining.
if that wreck happens with 1 to go, it's one of the greatest finishes of all time, right? Because they probably don't throw the caution and they let them race it to the line. At least they should, in my opinion, because the race is over anyway.
They're throwing the caution. How big that wreck was.
I think they shouldn't personally, but it's the last lap. Let them finish the last lap. It's not like they're going to be coming around there at speed next time anyway, especially if you're 3/4 of the way down the backstretch. But
What if you got cars in a like further back? Still green.
Sucks to
Avoid the
suck.
wreck.
sucks to suck.
That's why they throw it. Though.
Well, that sucks to suck.
That's why you have to throw it.
I
get your point.
They're
but
not lifting anyway. They either are or they aren't. Whether or not they're racing back to the checkered, they're not going to lift if they're not, because they're trying to pass as many cars so they can, because it's a point of caution if it's a white flag. So if they're not throwing the caution, you're still trying to pass these cars.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not getting out of it anyway. So it wouldn't change anything. But NASCAR puts them in this box. So I put almost no blame on the two guys. It's mostly just the box they've been put in, so I'm chalking it up to it is just racing, but it is super frustrating that it always comes down to this, and you almost never get a clean finish at the end, and then the guy that causes the wreck ends up winning the race. And that's what's super frustrating to me is like, you wreck half the field, and then you go and you're the one that reaps all the rewards when you really weren't that competitive all night. Like,
he was up there.
Sure,
He was
you're in the
fast.
top 10. You have a fast car, but you weren't race winning. You weren't Joey Logano. You weren't the 8 car that's driven from the back 35 times. Hell, you weren't even Brad Keselowski that was making a pass for the lead with 8 laps to go. Like,
He was trying. They were coming.
they were coming, sure, but they weren't. You don't think.
Who knows? They might if
If you would ask me,
he doesn't get wrecked right there, and Brad's underneath the 1, and the 24 jumps to the top, tries to pass the 1 with his run he's got.
Maybe.
A 3 wide for the lead.
But with 10 laps to go, if I would ask you who's going to win the race, William Byron wouldn't have been on anybody's mind. So that's my point. Like,
maybe.
No one's picking him to win the race at that point until the wreck happens, and then he's the only fast car left. So, sure, he's going to win the fucking race because there's nobody else. And then Chase Elliott, who's probably the best car left at that point.
Well, you said Ross.
Yeah, Chase and Ross, but Ross, not the greatest super speedway racer. Sure, he's got a win at Talladega that he kind of lucked into, but I would say that Chase Elliott was probably the best super speedway racer with the best car left at that point in time, at least in up there with a good enough car.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes kind of a boneheaded decision, and now nobody's got a shot. So,
well, to be fair to William Byron, he has 4 drafting track wins. It's a lot.
So
he
if I remember his first win, the air swallowed and it just been pain.
No.
Oh.
The fuck?
You never had that?
Yes, like in your breastbone.
Wrong and it just fucking hurts.
In your breastbone? Yeah. And
anyways,
you crack it,
and
it's oh my god.
But anyways, so he won the fall race in what, 18? What year did he win his first? What year was that?
The playoff cutoff race in 2020. That was his first win.
It was 20. It was his
in
first
Daytona.
win.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, kind of lucked into that one. Didn't really dominate that race. Wasn't the best car.
No, he avoided some wrecks and stuff, but he still. And Chase Elliott helped him out a lot.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott
was already in.
Yeah.
Then he won
Atlanta, first race in New Atlanta.
The first New Atlanta race, which was.
And he was pretty good. He was pretty fast
sure.
there.
And then he lucked into Atlanta last year because, they just decided to fucking throw a caution randomly when it wasn't raining. And then he, wrecks the whole field and wins this race. So, sure, he's got 4 of them. He earned one of them. Sure, you earn them all, putting yourself in the position.
You earn them all.
You earn them all, but he deserved one of them.
That's fair. But, I mean, if you keep winning, eventually it doesn't come down. Eventually people stop saying it's luck. People say, hey, it's just skill. He knows where to be at the right time.
Tom Brady is a lucky son of a bitch. Now, you have to be good enough to put yourself in the position to be lucky.
Yeah.
If you're bad, you're not going to get lucky because you're not in the position. Mm-hmm. But you have to put yourself in the position to get lucky. And
Jimmy Johnson, a lot of years, got lucky.
Yeah. So
I get you.
William Byron, I'm not saying he's the worst race car driver in the world. No. He's good. He's a really good race car driver. I almost picked him to win the championship this year because he is very lucky and he's also very good. But it's super frustrating that this motherfucker lucks into all of his goddamn wins. I mean, every time he wins, it's like, where the fuck did this guy come from? He had about 4 of them last year that he won that I'm like, where the fuck did this guy come from? He won Atlanta randomly. He won another fucking race just randomly. Which one was it in the playoffs that he won that was just dumb? I can't remember what track it was, but I remember like, what the fuck? This guy just wins randomly. It's dumb. I don't like him.
He won Phoenix last year, kind of lucky. He was fast, but remember that was when Harvick was going to win. Caution came out.
There was one in the playoffs that he won, and he shouldn't have won it. But anyways.
Texas.
I digress.
Texas.
I digress. Fuck William Byron. He's now public enemy number 1 for me. I hate this motherfucker.
We're not even got into that.
I don't like this motherfucker. All right.
In the last wreck, coming to the white, did they make the right decision by throwing the caution?
Yeah.
And whose fault was what? But the wreck real quick.
It was Corey LaJoie's fault.
I've explained it already. With Ross trying to come down, getting a run on William, coming to the white. The 2 and the 7 are down there at the bottom, kind of getting squirrely on each other. 7 continues to push 2 as he's coming back on the track. He kind of got off on the apron, came back on, and turned to 2 into the 1 while the 1's trying to pass 24. They go spin it out into the infield, come back up the track, and I forget who hits who, but
it was Corey LaJoie's fault.
It's Corey LaJoie's fault.
And there's not a lot of elaboration that needs to be done. Corey LaJoie's a bit of an idiot. I like Corey LaJoie, but he makes some fucking stupid-ass decisions in races quite a bit.
He either hurry up, get the race over with, so we go to Chili's.
Yeah, and, like I said, I like Corey LaJoie, but it definitely was his fault, just driving with his fucking head in his ass. Which
Cindric had some choice words for him.
Yeah, and I get where Corey's coming from. Like, you got to do what you got to do. You're trying to win the fucking race. So
when you see somebody get off the track, you can't just continue to push them. You got to let them be able to try to regain his control of his car.
Yeah, so I'm not mad at Corey for doing what he did. Like, it is what it is. You're not worried about Corey LaJoie, or you're not worried about Austin Cindric or anybody else. You're worried about putting your car in the best position to win the race. That's what he tried to do. But it was 100% the wrong decision, and it caused a big fucking wreck, which ended the race, and, the fans got fucked out of a finish because, it just happened to be right at the white flag, and the white flag came out before the yellow flag did, and they can't figure out a better way to do that system. So
that's Salou.
It's over at that point, and everybody knew it was over, and it just sucks because I would have liked to seen a finish. I would be much more okay with William Byron winning that race if there was a finish.
He just holds off everybody.
Yeah. If you're racing and you beat them, you beat them. Good for you. Now you still kind of lucked into it, but at least you had to earn it at the end.
You saw the checker flag while everybody else was still going at full speed. So you give Corey 100% of the blame there?
99.9.
So no fault of Ross for coming down. I think people say it's Ross's
fault. No, it's not
which
Ross's
makes
fault.
No fucking
it's
sense.
not Ross's fault. And
He's
sure,
trying to pass William Byron. He's got to run.
I'll give 0.1% for Cindric just because he's kind of there too, and he could have just not. He could have just. Oh, fuck, I'm fucked. I'm driving it on the apron, getting out of here. He could have done that, but nobody expects him to. So 0.01% on Cindric for.
And I think he probably kept his foot in it too.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd go 90% Corey, 10% Austin. Because like I said, Austin isn't the front car there. You got to take some accountability. Hold on to your car, no matter how hard it's. Like I said, it's coming to the white flag. Hold on to your car. You know the run's coming. Somebody's going to bump the hell out of you. Get ready for it. And then when you get a little squirrely, let out the gas. Now, you probably have lost the opportunity to win the race, but at least you don't crash your car in the process. But Corey, obviously, pushing. Also, when he was way out of shape, continuing to push him is kind of dumb. I get it's the last lap. And you see the 500 trophy right there in your grass, your fourth place. You're trying to push 2 up there so you can clear the 24 and all of them so you can try to make your move on the 2 yourself. But you can't, like you said, you can't just detach your head and put it on the floorboard, like we like to say a lot. That was 90% Corey, 10% Austin on that deal. But I'll even throw also 80% Corey, 10% Austin, then 10% coming to the white flag at Daytona 500. You're not lifting.
Well, it's 100% you're coming to the white flag at the Daytona 500 because, like I said, it happens every fucking year. So it's not the driver's fault at this point because sometimes it's Austin Cindric, sometimes it's Corey LaJoie, sometimes it's Denny Hamlin, sometimes it's fucking Kyle Larson. Somebody's getting wrecked right there. Yeah. As long as you don't do it on purpose like Austin Dillon did to fucking Eric Almirola, it's kind of just a racing deal. The only time that I'll ever actually be like mad at a driver is when they try to kill somebody like Austin Dillon did with Eric Almirola there, and go on to win the race. But when you're coming down to the checkered or the white of the Daytona 500, all bets are off. Everybody's driving like an asshole. Everybody's out for themselves. So hold on to what you got and just hope, close your eyes and hope you get through it because somebody's wrecking.
Yeah, there was a quote in the ARCA race on Friday night. Did you see this quote? No. They were talking to some guy. I forgot who it was. And because they raced after the truck series on Friday night. Yeah, that's him. And they're asking, what you going to do? It's like a restart with like a couple to go. He's like, I'm going to hold my I'm paraphrasing here. He said, I'm going to hold my foot to the floor, and I ain't lifting until I see the checker flag or Jesus. I saw or something like that.
I saw that quote. He said, yeah, I'm gonna put my foot to the floor, and I ain't lifting up until I see the flag or Jesus.
Yeah, I was like, hell yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
But